Good morning and welcome to another episode of Tea with Z. My name is Zamil Salaki and it's an absolute pleasure to be joining each and every one of you again for another episode on this awesome morning. Now, if you haven't gotten your cuppa yet, your tea, your coffee, whatever you were drinking, go and grab that now because we're going to jump into it. And just if you've read the title of this chat of this topic this morning, is I stuffed up. I stuffed up. So yesterday, and I'm just going to jump straight into it. Yesterday, actually, you know what? Before I jump straight into it, I'm going to quickly give a special shout out to those that joined me on Friday in the Limitless Network exclusively for another awesome topic there. But if you are watching live as well, give me some likes, give me some hearts. I do forget that shout out sometimes. So definitely, I do love to feed off your energy. And it's the start of the week. And what better way to kick off the week with high energy and some awesome conversation. And speaking of conversation, if you are watching live, give us a hi as well in the comment section below. Or if you're watching a replay as well, be sure to leave a comment. What takeaways you get from this, what lessons learned you get with this, how you're going to apply this knowledge in your daily lives or in your businesses. I love to read each and every comment in the comment section below, wherever you're watching on whatever platform you're watching on, because at the end of the day, that's the way in which we can interact in these digital forms. But yeah, like I mentioned, I'll be sure to reply to each and every comment. So let's get into it. So yesterday I stuffed up. So we had, and if you follow us on Instagram, you would have seen that we had a little weekend getaway last weekend. And so to celebrate some milestones with Sarah, but also a gift that we gave to my sister. And we went up to the Sunshine Coast, and we're very blessed to be able to travel. Big shout out to those that, obviously are still facing lockdowns, but a special shout out to those in Sydney who are starting to come out of them as well, which is very exciting. But we were able to travel up to the Sunshine Coast and spend a weekend up there with our family. And it was an awesome weekend, an absolutely awesome weekend. And Tash had come up as well with Syra, and I actually met her there and met all of our family there directly because I was working up towards the sunny coast anyway. And so rather than coming all the way back down to Brisbane, I thought, let me meet them straight there. And what I'd done is I kept my keys, my car keys in, and you can kind of see where this is going. I'd kept my car keys in my work bag, which is a backpack that I just carry into work. And I kept them there because, we didn't need to use that car while we're there. But Tash had left early yesterday to head back down to Brisbane before the traffic starts to really pick up. And if you're traveling between the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, the Bruce Highway is notorious for bad traffic. So Tash made sure that she left a little bit earlier to try and avoid any of that with Syra, and I would follow down with Anita, my mum, later on during the day. And packing up, and all of a sudden I realized that my key is in the work bag that I've given to Natasha to take back home. So that's my car keys back in Brisbane. It's about a 1.5 to 2 hours drive away. And we're in the sunny coast and the car's there, but I have no keys and nowhere to bring it back home. So long story short, we ended up having lunch after my initial reaction, I went through anger, the stages of, frustration. And then I kind of, really was, I guess, more or less just angry at myself. The fact that I didn't realize that I had made this error. But what I was more, I guess, upset about was the fact that this mistake wouldn't just impact me, it would impact others. And then the more I realized and processed what was able to happen, then the more, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I was able to come to terms with it, and people were giving me suggestions and things like that. But the way in which I process information is or any sort of news and things like that, is just to sit in it, by myself and just really just realize. And, at the end of the day, I said, I value your suggestions, but I just need to, understand what has happened and work out a way to resolve it. and then to be open to those suggestions as well. And what it made me realize, and reflecting on this, as I slept on this overnight, was that in business, there's times in which we stuff up. And of course, you can see me here. I'm back in the studio and have streaming this live again on another episode of Tea with Z. And you know that I made it back home. But after the very generous help of my siblings and my brother-in-law, my mom, we drove down, picked up the key, drove back to the sunny coast, and then drove back down. So we didn't get home till about 9 o'clock. It wasn't as bad. The traffic, thankfully, was very good on all directions, and so we're very blessed in I guess the long trips to round out what was an awesome weekend, and what still was an awesome weekend despite that as well, because it afforded us quality time together that we wouldn't normally have in the car. And when we look at this and when I reflected on it, we stuff up in business. We are human. We stuff up. And when we stuff up in business, and then how do we respond to that? And yes, we might go through, times of anger and outward projection of that anger. And at the end of the day, though, when we stuff up in business, how do we communicate that with our team? And that's what I really wanted to touch on with you all today, is how do we actually take ownership of our stuff ups? How do we limit our ego from coming up and us looking to blame others, to justify our decisions, to deflect? How do we look at our ego, particularly our ego, when it comes into play? And that's that inner voice that is there to protect us. But unfortunately, when that inner voice comes outwards into an outward expression, it can be somewhat quite explosive. It can be somewhat quite damaging to those around us. Now, for me, I was with my family, and yes, I was outward, for a few minutes there. I was extremely frustrated because I knew what I'd done. And the worst thing that I recognized I didn't is I actually hesitated to give the bag. I was like, oh no, you know what? I'll hang on to it. Don't worry about it. But then I gave it anyway. And maybe that was this like little voice or something, the universe telling me, hey, wait a minute, you need to do something with this bag. But whatever it was, I didn't pick up on it. But what I found and what the time to learn is well, what are the lessons that we can take away from this? What are the lessons that when things stuff up, because as you know, whatever stuffed up, and if you are watching right now, tell me your time. Give me some examples as well. Share the love with how you handled it. But at the end of the day, it is really, I guess we stuff up. We stuff up, but it's the way in which we respond to it and the way in which we outwardly project that stuff up, which can have the lasting consequences. And for me, what I really learned is, I guess that moment in time to have that open and honest communication and to really not place blame, because already, what I really noticed was Tash herself was starting to blame herself. And I'm like, well, no, it's definitely not your fault. This was all on me. And as a leader, as a team, how does our team then take on board ownership if things go wrong? And if things that aren't even part of their control? If I started projecting a lot of blame onto Tash for something that wasn't even her fault remotely at all, then what is the projection and what is the feeling on your team or on your partner in your relationship for things that aren't within their control? And when you look at this within an entrepreneur sense, when you look at this within a business sense, when things go wrong, as a leader, we need to then own that. We need to take responsibility for what happens, but also then empower our team to then come on the journey with us to actually push through it, to empower them with the tools and resources to go, look, this has happened. This is how we're going to move forward. To make a plan, to stick to that plan, and to actually show that, look, there's a way out. Because if we focus so much on the problem at hand and stay and dwell on how that problem arose, yes, it's good to review and reflect after we solve it. But if we stay so much bogged down into that problem without really looking for solutions, we then fester that problem. We manifest that problem to be even greater than probably what it already was. Because when you look at the simplicity of the problem that I had, It was simply that I didn't have keys to my vehicle. That was as simple as it was. I left keys in a bag. I didn't register that I need to take those keys out. It's funny. It's even more funny because I had her keys in my bag as well. And obviously, she wouldn't be able to travel without them. So I consciously took out those keys and gave it to her. But I didn't do the reverse. And as a result of that, that's what happened. But this is the lessons that we take away from it. So, firstly, I went into this state of anger and frustration, but then I digested it, I processed it, and I've reflected on, okay, well, how did I get to this point? What did I need to do differently? And what do I need now? What steps do I need to take to help get ourselves out of this situation? There were many different pathways that we could have taken, but at the end of the day, I was able to use the resources that, I was afforded to me. And I was very blessed to have people around me to call upon to assist me. But so in your team format, in your team, who is around you to assist you? What tools and resources do you have when things stuff up? What is your first initial reaction and how do you cope with that? How do you start to regulate? Do you start sitting? Do you start, firing off shots in every which way and direction rather than really taking that time to first breathe and understand the problem at hand and to really understand how you actually got there? Because it's very easy to outwardly project frustration. And that outward projection of frustration means that other people then start to feel responsible that might not have. And so this week, as things start to change and look at the end of the day, and, special shout out to once again to those in Sydney that are coming out of lockdown right now, wherever you are in the world right now, there's going to be moments, regardless, lockdown, no lockdown, whatever, we make stuff ups each and every day. And the best thing about being a parent is seeing what those stuff ups actually teach us as well. Because at the end of the day, Syra is now pretty much, she's starting to crawl. And every time she doesn't crawl, or every time she doesn't want to sit up or falls or something like that, there's no way in which I go, okay, now that's it. You know what? You're done. You're done. You're back on the bench. You're done. Just give up. No, you build up a level of resilience and grit to keep pushing. But it's taking that time now to recognize when our ego comes out to play and actually taking that time to actually reflect and go, well, why have I stuffed up? How do I do things differently? And what tools and resources can I use around me and empower my team to bring them on the journey with me as well? So that's my thing for you. And Tash, thanks for jumping on. Like always, just said it's really hard as an initial reaction is defensive to justify what we've done. I find with our team, we have fostered an environment of open and honesty and not singling out people when a mistake has been made as a negative, but trying to use it in a way for everyone to learn from it and make it a constructive situation as best we can. And so true, because at the end of the day, Google did a massive study to foster performance within a team. And the number one thing that they came out of it was creating an environment of psychological safety. In order to create psychological safety is to embrace the stuff ups, is to embrace the moments when we stuff up. Amazon, for example, have KPIs that you need to say yes to a certain number of ideas that you previously wouldn't have said yes to. And what that does is it fosters a safe environment to actually go and test and measure and stuff up and fail and check and debrief. And from those failures come the biggest successes. So I can't wait to see what the big success is out of this failure, but I'm sure there were plenty of lessons I've learned. For me personally, definitely making sure I've got my keys and actively making sure that, at the end of the day, taking the lessons away from this. And that's what it's all about. So definitely, if you are watching a replay or watching live, jump into the comment section below. Tell me about the times in which you stuffed up and how you responded. How did your team respond to that stuff up? And what did you do differently to bring your team on that journey as well to resolve it? So that's it from me today. Have an absolutely awesome day. And, this is me taking full ownership in front of, I guess into the world of cyberspace of, my actions. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to go and proclaim and run your own episode and stream it out. But what I'm saying is, this is an environment, a safe environment. And if you don't want to post about it publicly, this is what the Limitless group is for. It's a safe space to talk about these things. And so at the end of the day, jump on here because this is what it's all about. Just having a safe space. So the link is in the description below. If you're not joined yet, come on over because all it is a group of like-minded people that value health in any way, shape, or form. I want to talk in a safe and open space. Like I mentioned before, psychological safety, number one element to unlocking amazing amounts of performance within your team and within yourself. So that's it from me today. Have an amazing day. I look forward to catching up with you again on another episode of Tea with Z tomorrow. But that's it from me for now. Stay safe, stay well wherever you are, and thanks for watching. Catch you then.